as I think about this idea, and I differentiated a moment ago, there's the caring for and the caring about, right? And how I kind of have come to see it is caring for is this idea of making sure everybody has what they need. You're caring for their needs in a sense with regard to accomplishing their role in the mission, right? Like they've got the software. Okay, they're not operating Windows NT or something like that. They're up to date on whatever software, whatever systems that they need to accomplish the mission. They're getting the sleep that they need. They have protection from the elements, et cetera, et cetera. And then there's caring about, which is who are they, where are they from, what are their goals, those sorts of things. And so as I think about this kind of concept of caring for the people that we lead, that's how I kind of frame it. But I'd be interested in your thoughts on that.
Well, I think that the caring for part is an integral part of, in my view, of being able to accomplish the mission. In my experience, as an Air Force leader, you're not going to find people in the organization that don't want the organization to succeed. Right? I mean, that's a bottom line. And if you have people that don't want the organization to succeed, then it's your responsibility as a leader to maybe suggest that they seek a different approach to things, right? Like maybe a different job. And so if you look at your job, I don't succeed if you don't succeed when you look at the team. Then the question foremost in my mind, as I'm going about trying to pull a team together or to accomplish a mission, is what do they need to be successful? And so that gets to that theory. And the end result of that is, frankly, improved productivity, better morale, all of which are critically important to the success of the mission. So you can't separate mission success from that caring for that you talk about, because without those things, it just doesn't work. And I can give you an example
Sure, that'd be great.
of one particular time when I was the Air Force Materiel Command commander, and the Air Force was going through all of these efforts to figure out how we could improve our simple things like email and communication, because we had very aging infrastructure, and there was a great deal of frustration and discussion, even at the four-star level, about how do we go about doing this. There was this view that one size would fit all, and so every base would have this amount of structure. And me, as the Air Force Materiel Command commander, I had 80,000 people, but 60,000 of them were civilians, and we were doing the sustainment and the research and development, which is a little different mission when you think about it than a flying base. And so I tried to highlight to them that in some ways we needed better computers. We needed bigger pipes in order to do this. And I wasn't getting very far, because it was like, okay, Ellen, we hear you. You're worried about the civilians. We're worried about the airmen. And for me, the two are the same. And I was at a meeting. It was like the 27th of September, and we were all in Washington D.C. together. And I get a call from my chief of staff back in Dayton saying, "Hey, we got a real problem. Majority of the funding that actually gets spent by the Air Force, a lot of it goes through Air Force Materiel Command. I mean, we spent $60 billion a year. And at the end of the year, you are trying to get money through on contracts in order to get the money out so that we get it spent by the end of the year." And the call is, we're just having all sorts of problems with our IT. And so we are going to not allow certain people to use their computers and to go through communication, because we can't get, we're having trouble. The pipes are too small. So I went to the chief of staff of the Air Force and I said, "Boss, look, my people can't do their job. And I just want you to be aware that we could end up leaving money unspent, and therefore we would not be able to get those things that we were trying to buy that the Air Force needed, because my computer infrastructure is not working for us. And I've got people that are working, 12, 14, 16 hours a day just to try to get this going." And at which point he turned to the person responsible for comm and communication, says, "We need to get this fixed, and we need to get it fixed quickly." But there's an example of, people are trying to get the mission done. And, you can say, "Oh, we don't need, who cares whether you need computers? Who cares if you, have a limit on your inbox for how many emails you can get?" But in this case, giving the people the ability to get the mission done was the difference between success of the mission and not. And so it kind of brings to the point of, and we may talk about this later, of understanding what it is your people need. It isn't always obvious until, and you don't want to learn about what they need in a crisis situation, which is where we were then, right? We only had 3 more days to spend this money, to get this money out, and the pipes were too small to get
Yeah.
the data through.
Yeah, that's a great story, and it really brings this idea to life. It also highlights a number of really valuable leadership principles, knowing your people, having the competence to understand what is needed to get the job done. Also, I think that it really hits on the idea that caring for people caring for the people that we're leading is really about being, can we say, the chief obstacle remover? I mean, the
Mhm.
job is to actually, whether it's they're not trained well, okay, how do I get them trained? They don't have the equipment that they need. How do we get them the equipment? Whatever the obstacle is that prevents them from achieving their component in the mission. I think if my people are fighting against the system instead of focusing on their job or the mission overall, then I'm not doing my job as a leader.